Coming up to Theatre Cluid on the 23rd of October for just 1 week is the critically acclaimed dark comedy from Olivier Award-winning writer Laura Wade, and it's called Posh, and it stars the fantastic young actor Tyger DrewHoney. Now, unless you've been living on the moon, you'll know Tyger as the eldest brother Jake in the multi-award-winning BBC sitcom Outnumbered, and more recently as Dylan in Cuckoo, which also stars local actor and comedian Greg Davis. Now Tyger is about to undertake his professional stage debut on the British tour of Posh, and you can get to see him in late October at Theatre Cluid. So in a moment, I'm going to give you all the details on how to get tickets, etc, etc. But first, we're going to hear from the man himself on the Stage and Screen show, Calon FM, Mr. Tyger DrewHoney. Here he is. Here's the thing, right? I've interviewed quite a few people over the years, and I think you've got the coolest name of all the actors I've ever interviewed. And I read somewhere that it was a family nickname that's kind of stuck. Is that right?
Yeah. It's actually one of my favourite stories. It's a great story. Basically, both my parents are called Lindsay, slightly different spellings, but they met through a mutual friend back in the day who said, "Oh, I know someone called Lindsay. You should go on a date." They went on a date, got on. A few years later, when I came along, they decided they were going to combine their two spellings of the word Lindsay and call me Lindsay, so we were a family of Lindsays. But then when I was born, I had a problem with my vocal cords, and so for the first few months of my life, instead of going wah, 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 I'd go wah, wah, wah. And basically, gradually, my parents started to nickname me their growly little Tyger, right. And eventually, I learnt my own name as Tyger. I started saying Gaga want this, Gaga want that, and they thought, Gaga, he's trying to say Tyger. He thinks his name's Tyger. Sorry about the siren. I'm in an office in Oxford at the moment, but yeah. So they basically made the decision to change my name to Tyger because they thought that's what I thought my name was, and I'm glad that they did, because Lindsay's a perfectly fine name, but I do prefer Tyger. I think it gives a slight. I like the look on people's faces when I say, "Oh, I'm Tyger." Tyger.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I always thought it was your, I always thought it was just your name, and I thought, oh, he must have, he's obviously got very cool parents. But when I read it was a nickname, because the weird thing is, all my kids, I've got 3 kids, and they've all got nicknames, and it's to the point now where we don't call them anything else. It's like they sign cards by their nicknames and everything.
Yeah, I mean, that was essentially exactly what happened with us, but my parents went one step further, and they decided to put the name in by deed poll.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so my full name is Lindsay James Tyger DrewHoney. So I've still got the Lindsay and the James, but Tyger, I mean, Tyger's technically my middle name, but it's just the name I've used my whole life.
But it's an interesting one, because when you're starting out as an actor, it kind of gets you through the door, because everyone goes, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, you're right. Loads of people, when I first got the part in Outnumbered, loads of people say, oh, well, you could tell his parents, yeah. You know what his parents wanted him to do, calling their son Tyger DrewHoney. He was clearly pushed into it, sort of thing. Yeah. When it was really nothing of the sort whatsoever.
No, because you kind of fell into acting kind of by accident, didn't you?
Yeah, totally. I had no. I mean, I'm not. Aspirations to be an actor might have come upon me at some point as I grew up, because I do have a sincere passion for it now. But yeah, I was just doing a school play, and afterwards, a woman came up to me and said, would you like to do some professional work? It turns out she was an agent. She was friends with the headmaster of my school. That's why she was there. And then I went off, did a few voiceovers, and then went to the audition for Outnumbered, and that was it, basically. That was the start.
So Outnumbered was pretty much one of your first engagements, was it?
I mean, my first TV job was a few sketches in the Armstrong and Miller show. Uh-huh. And I mean, that's one of my fondest childhood memories, actually, because it was on my 11th birthday that I was doing my first day's professional work on TV, and the whole crew sang me happy birthday, and I remember thinking, God, what a lovely industry this is. Yeah. But yeah, so that was obviously a big show, but it didn't make the same impact that Outnumbered did, which came along very soon after. And obviously I had a lead role in that, you could say, and it was so sort of groundbreaking with the children and the improvisation that caused a lot of a big buzz. So I guess that's when the proper sort of excitement started, and that's when things started, happening properly, kind of.
Yeah. Because, I mean, that was the whole thing about that Outnumbered, wasn't it? It was the three children that made the show. That was the bit that everybody talked about, the fact that these three children, I mean, that their knowledge was extraordinary, really, to be able to improvise around it subjects that they really shouldn't have known anything about. That's where the humour lay, and it just made it a completely novel idea for a programme. It was brilliant, actually.
Oh, thank you. And yeah, I think that was heavily down to the casting. It was about finding the right children, finding kids who were very confident in themselves, wouldn't be put off with a camera stuck in their face, and could basically just come out with some funny stuff.
I mean, how did it work? Because, I mean, you must have just said, we want you to talk about such and such a thing. Go for it.
I mean, obviously, as a sitcom, anyone who's ever tried to write a sitcom will know you have to have a proper script. You have to have a beginning, middle, and an end, and you have to have a proper idea of what's going to happen. But the way we did it is, within that script, lines would be able to be made our own. So a line as written wasn't necessarily the way you had to say it. You kind of were given rein to rewrite your lines as long as you sort of said them in order. And then we would have scenes where the director would say, Dad's trying to make you go to bed. You don't want to go to bed. The reason you don't think it's fair that you have to go to bed is because you heard Mummy and Daddy jumping on the bed till God knows what time last night. So that's your argument. And so then some scenes would just be ran like that, where we'd kind of just put down the script altogether. And then other scenes, they'd put us in front of the TV and they'd sit us there for about half hour, 40 minutes, and the camera would just be rolling. They'd have a few pre-written gags that they'd get us to deliver. But then, other than that, we would effectively just pretend we were watching a show on television and talk about it. And if they liked something we said, but the cameraman wasn't framed up quite properly, then the director would shout in, "Oh, we really like that, would you say that again?" And just stuff like that. That was the sort of general gist of it. And it was for a first proper job for a 10, 11-year-old boy, it was amazing. It was exciting. It was brilliant.
Because I remember at the time, I mean, seasoned pros were kind of, everyone was raising an eye to all three of the children, and obviously Hugh Dennis and Claire Skinner are well known and brilliant anyway. So you kind of expect that from them. But it was as I say, it was the children's performances that made that programme.
Yeah, I think because it was so different. It'd never really been done before in such a way.
Brilliant. And now you're doing this. You're touring the country with this thing, Posh. I was amazed to read that this is your first professional stage engagement. Is that right?
Yeah, it's my first piece of professional theatre. Yes, I've only done a few plays in my life, and all of them were at school. Uh-huh. Obviously, I've been on stage in a professional context, but never doing a big, brilliant piece of theatre like this.
Do you feel, is that a daunting prospect for you, or are you chomping at the bit?
Yeah, it is daunting, yeah. Not necessarily, I don't want to give too much gravitas to the word daunting. It's not hanging over me like a big black cloud, but I do look at this production as, it's a learning challenge for me. It's not something I can just kind of coast through. There's various bits of work I've done on the years when I'm playing characters I know, doing sitcoms when I've only got a few lines the next day, and I don't necessarily have to look at my lines the night before. I can look at them on the way in, and I don't have to put that much work in that respect, because I'm used to it, and I can kind of not coast. I take pride in what I do, but I don't have to put as much thought into it as something like this. Something like this was something I've never done before. Mm-hmm. Having to learn a whole play's lines is not something I'm used to. Having to make sure I'm constantly seen by the audience. I'm good at finding camera, but I'm not good at finding audience. So there's so much for me to learn. Yeah. And I just know that I want to absolutely nail it. And in order to absolutely nail it, I've got to put a lot of work in. So that is the sense in which it's daunting. But I'm enjoying the work. It's not, oh, God, I've got to do this work, otherwise I'm going to embarrass myself. It's, come on, let's make this as the best we possibly can. And that's the thing of it is, and I always ask people of your sort of status, when people go to the theatre to see this production, they'll know that you're in it. Some people will be going specifically because you're in it. Are you aware of that? Are you sort of does that bring an added sort of tension for you, or yeah? I am aware of that. I am aware that there will be some people going because of my part in it. That is true. And yes, that does. I take a fair amount of pride in that, but also I do take some nerves from it, because it just sort of adds to that pressure. But similarly, what for me I'm not necessarily worried about, but because all my friends know this is my theatre debut and it's local, when we go to Kingston, it's local for me. And my mum's telling all her friends about it. So, I mean, one night, my mum's got, 10 of her friends from the gym coming, and they're just going to be taking up an entire row. And now, I know, they are my mum's friends, and they're my friends, and they like me, they love me, they're not going to sort of judge me, but, the fact that it's my theatre debut, I've got so many people coming to see it, who want to support me. There's part of me that is slightly more nervous about that. I don't know what it is, but throughout my childhood, I always found it easy to audition or practice lines or do anything in front of an audience of people that I didn't know. I found it quite easy. As soon as you asked me to do it in front of my parents, I found that very difficult. And I don't know why, because I've got the most amazing parents in the world, and I love them to death. But I always found it difficult. For instance, I'll ask my mum to go out sometimes to walk the dog so I can go round to her house so I can practice the monologue. I can't do it when she's there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's almost like you're doing it for just one or two people when they're in.
Yeah, you're right,
Yeah. Have you started rehearsals yet, or not yet?
Yes, we started rehearsals on Monday. We did a half week this week to get the blocking down, and then we've got a couple more weeks left before we go on tour.
Okay. It's quite a well-known play, really. Could you give us a quick synopsis?
Synopsis of Posh. Well, basically, there's a group of lads, and they are Oxford University students, and they are in a club called the Riot Club, and once a term they have parties, very hedonistic, riotous parties, and so they've just been given permission to resume having these parties because they've had an embargo put on the parties because of some bad behaviour at their most recent party. So now that embargo is lifted, they're ready to start having parties again. The play is effectively one of those parties, and it doesn't all go according to plan. It all becomes a little bit Lord of the Flies, and we get to see very arrogant, vitriolic, despicable posh people and the way that they view anyone who's not in the same echelon of society as they are.
Sounds absolutely ideal for this kind of this time that we're living through. Whether it's being quite a politically charged climate that we live in, it sounds like the sort of thing that I seem to remember David Cameron being involved in back in his day.
Exactly, and Boris Johnson as well. The political landscape that we are in at the moment in this country, I think, is rising up a lot of interest in politics amongst, especially young people. A lot of young people are much more interested in politics nowadays, especially recently. And I think that, what's going on at the moment is going to make this piece of theatre not just for people who like going to the theatre. I think this is going to be a piece of theatre that lots of people who wouldn't necessarily go to the theatre are going to be interested in because of the context and the subject matter.
And obviously the local theatre to us is Theatre Clue, and you're not here until the end of October. But the writer, Laura Wade, she's creating quite a stir as well as her latest piece, Home I'm Darling.
You guys co-produced that?
Yeah.
Right, yeah, I heard that.
Yeah. And she won Olivia Awards and all sorts for it, and it had its world premiere at Theatre Cluid. So for her, a play of hers to be coming back to Theatre Cluid, that's created a bit of a stir as well.
Oh, fantastic! And no, I do feel honoured to be doing my theatre debut with a script, written by Laura Wade. I mean, I haven't read or seen Home I'm Darling, and I don't plan to before I do the show because I want to keep my head fresh. But getting into this script that I'm doing now and just all the nuances and all the little things, seeing, Laura Wade is such a fantastic writer. It is such an honour to be doing her stuff, and I will be endeavouring to possibly try and perform some other of her stuff in the future because she's just won awards. She's won awards, hasn't she?
Is it a comedy?
Yeah, I guess you would say yeah. Posh is definitely a comedy, but it definitely falls into the dark comedy category. There's lots of laughs. There are lots of laughs, I think. Obviously, never doing it in front of an audience yet, it's sometimes hard to tell. Yeah. But there is lots of laughs, I'm imagining, and there's lots of dark laughs as well. Some of the humour is very dark, and yeah, I think it's a kind of perfect mix, because if it was just all this, all the darkness, it wouldn't have that balance that makes it not too heavy. I think it would be easy to get sort of bogged down in the darkness if there was no humour in it. Yeah. And also, you have to sort of make caricatures out of these characters because they're because they're the way they are, you have to put some light in there, I think.
Yeah. Do you find being, because you've done so much comedy work on the TV, do you find that people expect you to sort of gravitate towards comedy work, or?
I think generally in the past, I have the main bulk of my work has been comedy. It is, proper drama and stuff is something I really want to get into. And although this is a dark comedy, I think with this production, Posh, I don't think I was given the role because of my comedy. I think the comedy is a byproduct of this play being done well because of the script. I think, the main motivation for this play is the darkness and, seeing the darker side of these characters. And then the comedy just kind of comes from it.
Right.
So in this instance, I don't think I was given the role because of my comedy experience. But, yeah, you're right, it is where most of my work lies. And I do think I have a skill set adapted to comedy. But it's something I want to branch out. I'm only young, and I would love to think that I would do various things which aren't comedy, in the near future.
Absolutely. Well, Tyger, it's been an absolute treat to speak to you, mate. Thanks ever so much for that.
No, lovely to speak to you too. Thank you ever so much for your time.
Yeah, no worries at all, and we'll see you at Theatre Cleared at the end of October.
All right, see you, Andy. Bye-bye. Thanks, mate.
Cheers, buddy. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Shut up! You talk too loud. You don't fit in with the crowd. I can't believe you exist. I crossed you right on my list. Too much, too soon. You ain't hurt you. No class. No class.
So there you go. Possibly one of the nicest lads I've ever spoken to be honest with you. That's Tyger DrewHoney. And he's going to be coming to Theatre Cleared on the 23rd to the 26th of October. In this piece, it's called Posh. If you want to go see it, here's how you get tickets, right? And you can either go to the webpage, Theatre Cleared, theatrecleared.com, that's easy. theatrecleared.com /what's on/Posh. Sure you'll find it if you get to Theatre Cleared's webpage, but anyway. Or you can call the box office number 01352 344 101. That's 344 101. Or there's a new number 01352 701 521. That's 01352 701 521. Go on, support your local theatres, ladies and gentlemen. They will not be there forever if you don't.
How long